Hello, everyone. Just a brief video checking in, week three, looking at the so-called Facebook experiment. Um, it strikes me looking at the materials that I've gathered here that this is 7 years ago, just about. So it's getting to be a kind of an old thing, and but it's still incredibly interesting and perhaps I don't know, appalling occurrence, depending on what you think the ethics of it, how they actually shake out. Obviously, it is what it is. It's a vast experiment or psychological experiment of the way you read it for yourself what it is that was conducted on hundreds of thousands apparently of Facebook users. And was it 2012? I don't know. Anyway, without their consent. And there's we're looking at another issue in computer ethics, just like we were last week with autopilot. And again, you are encouraged to apply Kantian and utilitarian consequentialist frameworks in figuring this thing out, trying to account for what the ethical situation is with regard to these things. I think it's quite obvious that there are choices to be made. That one could definitely, and I hope that some of the materials do point out that on consequentialist or utilitarian grounds, the thing was defensible. There's no question about it, depending on how you conceive of the outcome of these things, how useful this kind of information is. And from on the other side, from the Kantian point of view, there are deep questions about whether these people, who after are people, not just users, were taken advantage of, whether they were exploited, whether they were disrespected and treated like things. So there's no obvious, I would say, answer to the ethics of this thing. Something that you'll need to work out for yourself. On the other hand, I mean, not on the other hand, but also, and this is again sort of leading up to next week's reading, Hans Jonas. There is something to note that this sort of thing, a vast social psychology experiment like this, done in this particular way, is something that I can't imagine how something like on this scale could have been done before the internet, before network computers, and before something like Facebook, which has this tremendous leverage, this tremendous power, given the just the vastness of its user base, the sheer number of people, and people who can be accessed quite easily, and people who can be affected quite easily through manipulation of the kind of things that they're seeing when they open up their page, which is just to say we're dealing with something new. We're dealing, I think, maybe not entirely new, but on the scale that it's done, the way that it's done, it's just something that was not possible to do before network computers, before digital technology, and before internet and social media. So there is a sense both that we're trying to handle these things ethically, trying to understand these things ethically with the old tools of the 18th and 19th century tools of Kantianism and utilitarian moral philosophy. And on the other hand, the question of whether those tools are suitable. And again, that's to anticipate Jonas. But that's what we're doing next week. And then I'll be asking you to write an essay on the part two, ethics of autopilot. And we'll discuss that, or I'll send out some videos on that before it's due.